I think the thing about product is it involves a lot of larger picture thinking. So there are a lot of people who say that when you're responsible for the product or when you're a product manager, you're responsible for the vision. So I think one of the key traits that a good product manager has is to be a bit of a jack of all trades. I think it's probably been repeated a lot, but it's an ability to not necessarily be really great as a coder, but to understand the technical concepts behind it and what people are trying to build, and to have empathy for the user. And I think I've gone off on a tangent because I'm kind of I forgot. But yeah, like I think that's what it is not necessarily to be the best at anything, but to be good at everything and to be able to understand and jump from context and to have a particular way of thinking, I think is really critical as a product manager, rather than any sort of hard skill that you can put on a CV. Obviously, there will be certain things that they'll look for, like experience in tech or experience in business or a university degree or those kinds of things that will help you along the way. But really, I do think it's a profession where how you think and how you approach problems is of more value than any specific skill on your CV.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's worth pointing out at this point that obviously some people who work in product do have business management experience. They've gone and studied that. I know that all of us here did not study business management. All of us studied 3D animation. So I know that our career path hasn't necessarily been aimed at getting into product, but through various different ways, that's how we've got here through working in tech. And I think a lot of that has come from, like Chloe said, just being able to look at something analytically and say, okay, this is happening. What's the end goal? How do we get there? And breaking it down into sizable, manageable chunks. One thing that you said as well, Chloe, was empathy. And I think that is the most important thing ever in general, but also in this role. I think if you are not being empathetic towards your customer, your user, and you're not being empathetic towards your team, then you're not handling the role correctly. I think being aware not only of what the customer's needs is, but being aware of what your team's needs are, in the sense of, have they been working on something that's been a large amount of tech-focused work for quite a while now? Would they like a break? Can you bring in some smaller chunks of work that would give them a bit of a rest and a bit more interest into the schedule as well? I think that's not something that's really spoke about very much in terms of being a product manager, but I do think it's extremely important to be aware of when you're prioritizing what you're going to work on for the next few months at a time.
I think to continue on that point is it's very important to build a good relationship with your team, because they're the people that essentially deliver the work. You can't really work without them, and they're so important and so critical. And again, it's building that trust and that equality in the stuff that you're doing, so that it's not just you pushing an idea, it's working together to create the right solution for your customer, which you have to, and building that trust with your team so that they feel empowered and able to do that.
It's definitely down to those soft skills, being able to communicate, and also just being able to get along with your team as well. Spend every day together, so you want to make sure that everyone's happy and everyone understands where we're at. And I don't think what Foundry definitely does when they're looking into filling a product management role, they don't necessarily single out people with product management experience or degrees or anything like that. They'll, in my case, I know that's similar for both of you. We came from different angles into product management. For me and for all of us, it's the product that kind of took us in that direction, because we were, passionate about the product. We wanted to make it better. And I guess when it came down to the interview stages, it's all down to also checking if you've got that mindset where you're thinking not just kind of outside of yourself. If you're like Charli was mentioning, if you're the only person making these decisions, then you're probably not going to end up with a very good product. So just checking that you're able to listen to your team. So, if there's a feature that absolutely needs to go through and it's not quite going, it's not realistic, or it's something, the timelines are not right, it's about being able to kind of sit down with the team and trying to understand the why and understand, okay, where can we make compromises? And I think without good communication, without that kind of relationship with the team, it can become quite hard to do.
I think the other thing is, if you are interested in product, just read about it. There are some really, really good books out there that can help you learn. There are some great blogs. And just learning what it is and how it works is pretty fundamental to being able to talk about it. I think interviewers will appreciate that a lot if you're looking for a role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I would also, because when I was kind of initially going into product management, I read a lot of product management books. There are very different types of books that you can read, but I would also take them with a pinch of salt, really, because every industry can be quite different, and so it's about finding that balance and making sure that I guess that whole ecosystem, like I was mentioning before, is actually working well.
I also think, in terms of research, don't be afraid to ask other people who are product managers, both in your own company or anywhere. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn and just ask them how things are going. How did they get into it? Do they have any advice? The worst thing that can happen is someone doesn't answer, or they say, sorry, I don't have time. And you just ask someone else. That's been a really undervalued skill that I feel people don't realize that you can just do that. And I know that I, for one, have benefited in getting into product just by asking the product manager, who was the product manager of Mari previously, just, why are you making those decisions? What's happening? How do you decide this is more important than this? And just generally being interested.